The fatal scan. Commander Zethkar of the Velkran Empire stood in the command center of his battlecruiser, the Eternal Dominance, watching the stars drift past in their endless dance. He was a veteran of 30 campaigns, a warrior who had brought 17 star systems under Velkran control. His scales bore the ceremonial markings of a conqueror, and his 4 arms rested confidently on the tactical display before him. The Velkran were apex predators in this region of space, and everyone knew it. His fleet consisted of 23 warships, each one a masterpiece of Velkran engineering. They moved through the disputed corridor, a region of space claimed by multiple civilizations but controlled by none. The Velkran had decided it was time to change that. Zethkar's orders were clear: establish dominance, eliminate any resistance, and prepare the way for colonization. It was a task he had performed many times before, and he expected no complications. The sensor officer, a young Velkran named Threx, suddenly stiffened at his station. His voice carried a note of curiosity rather than concern. "Commander, we have detected a vessel at the edge of our scanning range. Distance approximately 50,000 kilometers. Configuration unknown. Size indicates a medium-class warship, possibly a cruiser or heavy frigate." Zethkar's secondary eyes focused on the tactical display while his primary eyes remained fixed on the viewport. An unknown ship was unusual but not alarming. The disputed corridor saw traffic from dozens of species, most of them scavengers or explorers hoping to stake claims before the major powers arrived. "Show me," he commanded. The main display flickered and resolved into an image that made Zethkar pause. The vessel was unlike anything in the Velkran database. Its design was angular and purposeful, with none of the organic curves favored by most spacefaring races. The hull was dark, almost black, and seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. Weapons ports dotted its surface in patterns that suggested redundancy and overlapping fields of fire. The ship looked functional, efficient, and strangely menacing despite its relatively modest size. "Run a full military analysis," Zethkar ordered. "I want complete specifications. Power output, weapons systems, defensive capabilities, crew complement, and species identification. Let us see who dares to fly through space we are claiming." The scanning systems went to work, sending out waves of detection energy across multiple spectrums. Zethkar expected the process to take perhaps 10 minutes. Instead, the sensor officer began reporting results almost immediately, and each report made Zethkar's confidence waver just a fraction. "Commander, initial results are coming through. The power signature is reading at levels far beyond normal parameters for a ship of this size. The reactor output suggests a matter-antimatter system, but the efficiency ratings are impossible according to our models. The armor composition contains elements our database cannot identify. Molecular density readings indicate material stronger than compressed neutronium, yet the ship maintains normal mass characteristics." Zethkar felt the first stirring of unease. Impossible was not a word he liked hearing from his crew. "Continue scanning. What about weapons systems?" The sensor officer worked his controls, and the readings that came back made him check his instruments twice before reporting. "Sir, I am detecting 147 separate weapon emplacements. The systems include kinetic accelerators, plasma projection arrays, missile tubes of various sizes, point defense networks, and at least 30 systems that use principles our computers cannot identify. Several weapon ports show energy signatures consistent with nuclear-scale warheads. The point defense grid alone could engage 2,000 simultaneous targets." The command center had gone quiet. Every officer was now watching the main display, studying the alien vessel with growing concern. Zethkar's tactical mind was already analyzing the implications. A ship that size should not be able to mount that many weapons without sacrificing critical systems. The power requirements alone would be staggering. Yet the scans showed reactor output sufficient to run everything simultaneously with energy to spare. "What of the crew?" Zethkar asked. "Surely they cannot maintain optimal conditions with such a power-hungry design. Biological scans show 423 life forms aboard. But Commander, the internal environmental conditions are extreme. Gravity is set at 2.4 times Velkran standard. Atmospheric composition includes oxygen at levels that would be toxic to most species. Radiation shielding is minimal by our standards, suggesting the crew has natural resistance to radiation exposure. Temperature ranges indicate they prefer conditions we would consider uncomfortably warm." Zethkar's mind raced through the implications. High gravity meant the crew came from a large planet, which typically produced beings with dense musculature and strong skeletal structures. High oxygen suggested an aggressive metabolism and quick reflexes. Radiation resistance implied either technological augmentation or evolution on a planet with a weak magnetic field. Every factor pointed to a species adapted for harsh conditions, perhaps even a death world origin. Computer, search all databases for species matching these biological parameters, Zethkar commanded. Cross-reference with known spacefaring civilizations in this sector. The computer processed the request and delivered its response in a calm, mechanical voice. Species identified, Homo sapiens. Common designation, humans. Origin planet, Earth, located in Sector 947. Planetary classification, Death World, Category 11. Spacefaring status, confirmed for approximately 200 standard years. Warning, Death World species typically exhibit enhanced physical capabilities, aggressive tendencies, and exceptional adaptability. The command center became even quieter. Death worlds were legendary in galactic society, representing less than 1% of all habitable planets. They were environments so hostile that survival required constant evolution and adaptation. Species from death worlds were invariably formidable, combining physical prowess with mental resilience born from generations of struggle against their own planet's attempts to kill them. Only 4 death world species were known to exist in this region of space, and all 4 were treated with extreme caution by the Velcran Empire. Additional information, the computer continued. Humans have established territorial claims throughout Sector 947 and adjacent regions. Military strength assessment. Insufficient data for accurate evaluation. Known conflicts. Humans have engaged in defensive actions against Krillian raiders with complete success rate. Diplomatic status with Velcran Empire. No formal contact established. Zethkar studied the human ship with new understanding. This was not some minor species stumbling through space. This was a predator from a death world, flying a ship that seemed designed by beings who understood violence at a fundamental level. Every aspect of the vessel spoke of a species that had learned to fight not just enemies but their own planet, and had emerged victorious. He opened a communication channel, and the human captain's face appeared on the screen. Zethkar had seen many species in his years of conquest, but humans were distinctive. The captain was female, with smooth skin marked by what appeared to be old scars, dark hair pulled back in a functional style, and eyes that looked directly at him with the gaze of a fellow predator. She studied him for a moment before speaking, and when the translation came through, her voice was calm and professional. This is Captain Elena Rodriguez of the Terran defense vessel Prometheus. You have entered Earth-protected space. State your identity and intentions immediately. Zethkar straightened to his full height, allowing all 4 of his arms to be visible as a display of Velcran authority. I am Commander Zethkar of the Velcran Empire. This space is under consideration for Velcran territorial expansion. Your presence here is noted but irrelevant. You will provide detailed information about your civilization, technology, and military capabilities, or you will be classified as hostile. Captain Rodriguez's expression did not change, but something in her eyes shifted. A calculation perhaps, or recognition of a familiar pattern. Commander Zethkar, Earth claimed this region 6 years ago and has maintained continuous presence here since that time. We have filed proper documentation with every known galactic authority and established clearly marked boundaries. You are currently in violation of those boundaries. I advise you to alter course immediately and withdraw to neutral space. The Velcran Empire does not recognize claims we have not personally approved, Zethkar replied. We are the dominant military power in this sector. Your single ship faces 23 Velcran warships. I suggest you consider your situation carefully. For a long moment, Captain Rodriguez simply looked at him. Then she spoke again, and her words carried a weight that made Zethkar's scales prickle with instinctive warning. Commander, I have reviewed your fleet composition and capabilities. I have also reviewed Velcran military history and tactical doctrine. Based on this analysis, I am providing you with one warning and one warning only. Leave this space immediately. Do not engage. Do not approach closer. Do not attempt to board or capture this vessel. If you do any of these things, you will not survive the encounter. Zethkar felt rage rise through his caution. A threat from a single ship. The arrogance was beyond belief. He cut the communication and turned to his weapons officer. All ships, battle formation Delta. Target the human vessel. I want shields analyzed and weak points identified. We will disable their engines and take that ship as a prize. Prepare to fire on my command. His fleet moved into position with practiced efficiency. 23 warships against 1. The outcome seemed inevitable. Zethkar watched as his tactical display showed firing solutions being calculated, shields being analyzed and weapons being charged. Then his finger moved toward the firing command. The human ship moved first. It accelerated so violently that the sensors lost tracking for nearly 2 full seconds. When they reacquired the target, 4 of Zethkar's destroyers were already dying. Their shields had been overloaded by weapons that hit with impossible force, and their hulls were tearing apart under repeated impacts from projectiles moving at speeds that defied easy explanation. The command center erupted in chaos as officers shouted contradictory reports and alarms blared across every frequency. Zethkar stared at his tactical display and watched as everything he understood about warfare was proven wrong. The human ship moved through his fleet like a blade through flesh, and everywhere it passed, Velcran vessels died or went silent with their systems destroyed. His 23 warships fired everything they had, creating a storm of energy and metal that should have reduced any target to atoms. The human ship simply flew through it, its shields absorbing impacts that should have been fatal, its point defense systems destroying incoming missiles with perfect accuracy, and its weapons firing with a precision that suggested not just advanced targeting but intimate knowledge of Velcran ship design. In less than 8 minutes, Zethkar's fleet was reduced to burning wreckage and disabled hulks. His own flagship remained intact, but only because the human ship had specifically targeted and destroyed only the weapon systems while leaving life support and engines functional. He sat in his command chair, surrounded by the moans of injured crew and the wail of damage alarms, and finally understood Captain Rodriguez's warning. She had not been making a threat. She had been stating a simple fact. He had scanned their ship and thought he understood what he faced. He had been catastrophically, fatally wrong. The Velcran Empire had just learned that humanity was not prey to be conquered. They were something far more dangerous. They were Death World predators who had brought their weapons to the stars, and the galaxy would never be the same. The price of arrogance. The silence on the bridge of the eternal dominance was absolute. Zethkar sat in his command chair, surrounded by the wreckage of his confidence and the shattered remains of his fleet. Smoke drifted through the air from overloaded consoles, and the emergency lighting cast everything in a sickly red glow. His 4 arms trembled slightly, though whether from injury or shock he could not say. Around him, his crew moved like ghosts, tending to the wounded and trying to restore basic systems. The mighty Velcran Empire, conqueror of 17 star systems, had been broken in 8 minutes by a single human ship. The communication system crackled to life, and Captain Rodriguez's face appeared on the main screen once more. Her expression remained calm and professional, showing neither triumph nor anger. It was the face of someone who had completed a necessary task efficiently and was now moving to the next phase of operations. Commander Zethkar, your fleet has been neutralized. 14 of your vessels are completely disabled. 7 have sustained critical damage but remain spaceworthy. 2 have been destroyed. I take no pleasure in informing you that 63 of your crew members are dead, casualties of your decision to engage despite my warning. Zethkar felt each word like a physical blow. 63 dead. Brave Velcran warriors who had followed his orders into a battle they could never win. He had killed them with his arrogance, his assumption that size and numbers guaranteed victory. His voice, when he finally managed to speak, came out as barely more than a whisper. What are your terms? You will immediately cease all hostile actions and power down all remaining weapon systems. You will transmit complete crew manifests for all ships so we can account for casualties and provide medical assistance. You will maintain your current positions and await further instructions. Any attempt to jump to faster-than-light speeds, any attempt to activate weapons, any attempt to transmit communications beyond this immediate area will be considered a resumption of hostilities and will be met with lethal force. Do you understand these terms? Zethkar wanted to rage, to refuse, to die fighting rather than accept such complete defeat. But he looked at his tactical display, at the icons representing his crippled ships and wounded crew, and knew he had no choice. His pride had already cost too many lives. I understand. We will comply. Good. Captain Rodriguez paused, and something almost like sympathy crossed her face. Commander, I want you to understand something. What happened here today was not personal. You violated our territory and threatened a military vessel of the Terran Defense Fleet. We responded according to our rules of engagement. Had you withdrawn when warned, none of this would have been necessary. But you chose to attack and we defended ourselves. That is all this was. The transmission ended and Zethkar was left staring at a blank screen. He gave the necessary orders to his crew, watching as they powered down weapons and began transmitting the requested information. Within minutes, 3 more human ships appeared on sensors, moving in from positions where they had apparently been waiting. These vessels were larger than the Prometheus, sleek and deadly-looking, and they took up positions around the disabled Velcran fleet with the precision of experienced hunters surrounding wounded prey. Over the next several hours, Zethkar watched as human shuttles began moving between ships. Medical teams came aboard the Eternal Dominance, and he was shocked to see that they immediately began treating Velcran wounded with the same efficiency they had shown in combat. Human medics worked alongside Velcran survivors, using equipment that seemed to understand Velcran biology better than some of his own medical staff. They asked questions in perfectly translated Velcran language, administered drugs carefully calculated for Velcran metabolism, and showed a competence that only deepened Zethkar's confusion. A human officer came to the bridge and approached Zethkar with crisp military bearing. She was shorter than the commander, as all humans seemed to be, but she carried herself with quiet authority. "Commander Zethkar, I am Lieutenant Sarah Chin of the Terran Defense Fleet. Admiral Marcus Williams has requested your presence aboard the TDF Constellation for a formal meeting. You may bring 2 officers of your choosing. Transportation will be provided in 30 minutes. Please prepare whatever documentation you feel is necessary regarding this incident." Zethkar selected his second-in-command and his chief tactical officer to accompany him. The human shuttle was surprisingly spacious, with seats that had been adjusted to accommodate Velcran physiology. The flight to the constellation took only 15 minutes, but Zethkar spent the time studying everything he could see. The shuttle's interior showed the same purposeful design as their warships. Every surface served a function, every system had redundant backups, and everything was built to standards that suggested a species that expected their equipment to face extreme conditions. The constellation was massive, easily 3 times the size of the Eternal Dominance. As they approached the docking bay, Zethkar could see dozens of smaller craft moving in organized patterns around the ship, and his tactical eye recognized a carrier configuration. This was not just a warship but a mobile command center capable of deploying and supporting an entire fleet. The bay itself was enormous, containing row after row of fighters, bombers, and assault craft, each one maintained to perfection. Admiral Marcus Williams met them in a conference room that was both functional and subtly intimidating. The walls displayed star charts showing human territorial claims, which Zethkar now realized were far more extensive than he had imagined. Williams himself was an older human, with gray hair and eyes that had seen many battles. He gestured for Zethkar and his officers to sit, and when everyone was settled, he placed a data tablet on the table between them. "Commander Zethkar, I want to begin by expressing regret for the lives lost today. War is a terrible thing even when necessary. I have reviewed the tactical logs from the Prometheus, and I want you to understand that Captain Rodriguez followed our protocols exactly. She warned you. She gave you the opportunity to withdraw. When you chose to engage, she responded with appropriate force." Zethkar found his voice, though it still carried the weight of shame and confusion. "Appropriate force? Admiral, your single ship destroyed my entire fleet in minutes. We never had a chance. How is that possible? We scanned your vessel. We analyzed your capabilities. Nothing we detected suggested such overwhelming superiority." Williams nodded slowly as if he had expected this question. "That is because you were looking at the tools without understanding the hands that made them. Let me show you something." He activated the data tablet, and a holographic image appeared showing a blue and green planet with white clouds swirling across its surface. "This is Earth, Commander. Our home world. Beautiful, is it not?" Zethkar studied the image, seeing a world that looked peaceful and inviting. "It appears to be a pleasant planet. Abundant water, stable climate, diverse biomes. I do not understand what this has to do with our battle." Williams smiled, but it was a grim expression without joy. "Let me tell you about Earth, Commander. Our atmosphere is 21% oxygen, which is toxic to many species. Our gravity is 0.98 standard, which many races find uncomfortably high. Our planet has 5 major extinction events in its geological record, each one wiping out most life and forcing survivors to evolve rapidly or die. We have predators that can run for hours without stopping, others that can crush bone with their jaws, and still others that use venom capable of killing in minutes. We have weather systems that can level cities, geological activity that reshapes continents, and diseases that have killed millions of our people throughout history." The hologram changed, showing images of Earth's creatures. Zethkar saw massive beasts with claws and teeth, tiny organisms that apparently caused terrible sickness, and weather patterns of terrifying scale. Williams continued speaking, his voice taking on a tone that was almost educational. "Humans evolved on a planet that was constantly trying to kill us. We learned to make tools because we had no natural weapons. We learned to work in groups because alone we were easy prey. We learned to think and plan and adapt because those who could not do these things died without passing on their genes. For 3 million years, Earth shaped us into survivors. But that is not what makes us dangerous in space, Commander. What makes us dangerous is what we did after we survived. We looked at our hostile world and decided it was not enough to simply endure. We decided to conquer. We tamed fire, domesticated animals stronger than ourselves, built cities that could withstand the worst weather our planet could produce, and eventually, we developed technology that allowed us to leave Earth entirely. We took everything our world taught us about survival, about adaptation, about never giving up, and we brought those lessons to the stars. Williams changed the hologram again, and now Zethkar saw an overview of human space. Hundreds of systems glowed with markers indicating human presence. Thousands of ships moved along established routes. Stations and colonies dotted dozens of worlds. The scale was staggering, representing a civilization far larger and more established than Zethkar had imagined. We have been spacefaring for 200 years. In that time, we have claimed 473 star systems. We maintain a defense fleet of 12,000 vessels, ranging from corvettes like the Prometheus to dreadnoughts that make the constellation look small. We have encountered 17 different spacefaring species, established peaceful relations with 12 of them, and fought defensive wars against 5. We have never lost an engagement. Zethkar felt his worldview crumbling. Never lost? That is impossible. Every species suffers defeats in war. It is the nature of conflict. Not when you understand what war truly means, Williams replied. Commander, most spacefaring species evolved on gentle worlds. They developed technology in times of peace and extended that technology to space travel. They see war as an aberration, something to be avoided or quickly concluded. But humans? We evolved in a state of constant warfare. Not just against each other but against our entire planet. War is not an aberration for us. It is our natural state. Everything we build, everything we design, everything we plan is done with the assumption that someday, somewhere, we will need to fight for survival. The hologram showed detailed schematics of the Prometheus, and Williams began pointing out features. The Prometheus is a Vanguard-class corvette, designed for long-range patrol and rapid response. Its armor uses materials we developed for planetary mining operations in high-pressure environments. Its weapons are scaled-down versions of systems we originally designed for asteroid demolition. Its power plant is based on technology we developed to provide energy for colony ships traveling to distant stars. Do you understand what I am telling you? We do not build weapons and then find uses for them. We build tools for survival, and those tools become weapons when necessary. Every human ship carries enough food, water, and supplies to operate independently for 2 years. Every human ship has medical facilities capable of treating wounds that would kill most species. Every human ship has redundant systems for every critical function because we learned long ago that single points of failure are death sentences. We do not build ships to look impressive or inspire fear. We build ships that work, that survive, and that accomplish their missions regardless of the obstacles they face. Zethkar's tactical officer spoke up for the first time, his voice filled with professional curiosity despite their situation. Admiral, your point defense accuracy was perfect. Our computers cannot achieve such precision. How is this possible? Williams looked at the officer with something like respect. An excellent question. Our point defense systems use neural network processors that learn and adapt in real time. They are trained using data from millions of simulated combat scenarios. But more than that, they are designed by people who understand that in space combat, a single missile getting through your defenses can kill everyone aboard your ship. We do not accept 99% accuracy when 100% is achievable. Human engineers spent 50 years perfecting those systems because human lives depend on them. The Admiral stood and walked to the viewport, looking out at the stars. Commander Zethkar, I am going to be completely honest with you. Today was a tragedy that could have been avoided. You made assumptions based on incomplete information. You saw a single ship and thought you understood what you faced. But you were wrong, and that mistake cost lives. Now I need to decide what happens next. Zethkar felt his heart's hammering. He expected execution, imprisonment, or slavery. The Velcran Empire would have shown no mercy to a defeated enemy. But Williams turned back to face him with an expression that was difficult to read. Under the authority granted to me by the Terran Defense Council, I am prepared to offer the following terms. Your fleet will be repaired to space-worthy condition at human expense. Your dead will be returned to you with full military honors. Your wounded will receive complete medical care. You and your crew will be released and allowed to return to Velcran space. In exchange, you will carry a message to your government. What message? Zethkar asked, hardly daring to believe what he was hearing. That humanity claims the disputed corridor and all adjacent systems we have marked as Earth-protected space. That we will defend these claims with lethal force if necessary, but we prefer peaceful coexistence. That we are open to formal diplomatic relations, trade agreements, and mutual defense pacts with any species willing to respect our sovereignty. And that any future violations of our territory will be met with the same response you encountered today. Williams paused, letting his words sink in. We do not want war with the Velcran Empire, Commander. We have enough challenges in space without adding unnecessary enemies. But we will not be pushed aside or intimidated. We survived Earth and we will survive anything the galaxy throws at us. Zethkar sat in stunned silence, processing everything he had learned. Humans were offering mercy when they could have demanded submission. They were providing aid when they could have left his fleet to die in space. They were seeking peace when they had just proven they could wage war with devastating effectiveness. It made no sense according to everything he knew about galactic politics. Strong species dominated weak ones. Victors subjugated the defeated. That was the natural order. What? He finally asked. Why show mercy? Why not destroy us completely or force us into servitude? You have the power to do so. Williams returned to his seat and looked directly at Zethkar with those predator eyes that somehow still carried warmth. Because that is not who we are, Commander. Yes, we are warriors. Yes, we are dangerous. But we are also capable of compassion, cooperation, and forgiveness. Earth taught us to be survivors, but our own choices taught us to be more than that. We learned that survival is easier when you have allies. We learned that diversity makes us stronger. We learned that peace, when you can achieve it without sacrificing principle, is preferable to endless war. These are lessons our own bloody history taught us, and we have chosen to remember them. Over the next 3 days, Zethkar watched as human engineering teams worked alongside Velcran crews to repair damaged ships. He saw human medics saving Velcran lives with skill and dedication that matched their combat efficiency. He studied the technical manuals humans provided, learning about their technology and realizing that everything Williams had said was true. Humans built for survival first, elegance second, and they did it with a thoroughness that bordered on obsession. When his fleet was finally ready to depart, Zethkar stood on the bridge of the Eternal Dominance and looked at the human ships surrounding them. The Prometheus was there, Captain Rodriguez commanding, and Zethkar opened a private communication channel. Captain, I owe you an apology. You warned me. You gave me the opportunity to avoid this. I was arrogant and my arrogance cost lives. I'm sorry. Rodriguez studied him for a moment before responding. Apology accepted, Commander. For what it is worth, I hope your people choose the path of peace. The galaxy is vast enough for all of us. Safe travels. The Velcran fleet jumped to faster-than-light speed, heading back toward the Empire's core systems. Zethkar spent the journey preparing his report, knowing that every word would shape his government's response to humanity. He would tell them everything. The technology, the tactics, the scale of human civilization, and most importantly, the lesson he had learned at such terrible cost. Humanity was not another species to be conquered or dismissed. They were Death World survivors who had brought their resilience to the stars, and they were here to stay. The galaxy had changed the moment humans achieved spaceflight, and the Velcran Empire would need to change with it or face the same fate Zethkar's fleet had suffered. He touched the data tablet Williams had given him, containing the formal diplomatic proposal from Earth, and made a decision. He would recommend acceptance. The Velcran Empire needed allies who understood war as deeply as humans did, and perhaps together they could build something better than endless conquest. As the stars streamed past and home drew closer, Zethkar found himself hoping that his people would be wise enough to choose peace. Because if they chose war with humanity, he knew with absolute certainty that the Velcran Empire would not survive the choice.